This guy starts working in the publicity department of a huge company, and to help him get used to his new job, he's assigned a senpai to assist him. The person in charge of this is a hot blonde who is considered mean and hard to talk to, but she's actually an awkward shy girl who has problems communicating with other people, and the proximity with her new kouhai will bring up feelings that she never thought she would have. Azusa Kanawa is an accomplished publicist who recently got an advertising award from one of her posters. She gets to work like every day, but when she tries to get into the building, she realizes that the key card she brought was actually a plumber's business card. This is the first sign that this girl is not actually all there. When she manages to get inside and sits on her desk to start the day, a colleague approaches her to say that they're not going to be able to hire the influencer they booked and asks her what they should do. Kanawa looks at her with a mad expression and says that it's her job to prepare a proposal before asking her questions. But then she proceeds to tell her to use her resources to find a stand-in. She hands documents to another colleague saying that she had corrected them and scolds him for leaving his desk all messy. When her boss calls her, she hears her colleagues talking about her. They think she's cool but scary, and even though she's always right, she could say things in a friendlier manner. The boss tells her that a newbie is starting his job there today, and he puts her in charge of training him. He was the top scorer in the exam, and since Kanawa is the ace of the publishing team, she would be perfect for getting him into shape. She accepts the request, but her internal persona is completely freaking out. Her only job will be training her new kouhai, but her communication skills are bad. She is not good with people, and her colleagues even stopped inviting her out for drinks. But her boss doesn't realize any of that. While she's still freaking out, the newbie arrives. His name is Yu Kamegawa, and Kanawa immediately notices that he's a good kid with a friendly charm, and she's going to have to do her best when training him. Kanawa proceeds to show Kamegawa around the company. They started out developing video games, but now they've expanded into books, apparel, real estate, and more, which means there are more projects for the publicist to handle, and she tells him he can go to her if he needs help with anything. She shows him around everywhere with an angry expression and talking loudly and fast, as if she wanted that to end as soon as possible, and Kamegawa thanks her for the tour. When they get back to their desks and Kanawa is satisfied with the way she handled that, Kamegawa asks her what he's supposed to do, and she realizes that she hadn't actually taught him how to do his job. She says she has a meeting with a client and invites him to shadow her and observe. But first, he needs to practice exchanging business cards. When she opens her cards case, her awkward side decides to show up, and she drops everything. Luckily, Kamegawa did not see how red her face was. She introduces Kamegawa to their clients and notices how easy it was for him to greet them and hand them his business card, while she, his mentor, exchange her cards with the floor. While giving her presentation, she tries to keep her dignity and composure, but Kamegawa is staring at her with such attention that she starts getting nervous and anxious. She manages to finish the meeting, but she's exhausted from the burden of being a mentor. It's almost time for lunch, and Kanawa wonders if she, as a senpai, should invite Kamegawa to eat. But then she starts spiraling, wondering if inviting a kouhai to lunch could be seen as harassment. However, not inviting him could send a message that she does not want to get friendly with him. She has trouble with daily conversations, so she's not sure what to do next. She says she has another meeting, telling him to have lunch in the meantime, and runs out of there as fast as she can. At the end of the day, Kamegawa says goodbye and thanks her for showing him around, saying that he did not do so well because he was really nervous with his first day of work. Kanawa says that no one is perfect on their first day and tells him he can rely on her going forward. He thanks her again and leaves the building. While Kanawa herself is leaving, she realizes that she spent the whole day worrying about herself, and she needs to step up in order to be a good senpai to Kamegawa. So she wants to start by being more frank with him. The next day, Kamegawa is chatting with his other coworkers when Kanawa gets in, coldly telling them to move away. She's so out of it that she thinks this morning's code was actually a proper greeting. She still has a lot to learn. Today, she tells Kamegawa to work on a proposal for a new manga app, and she gives him samples of her past proposals as a reference. She stands behind him with her arms crossed and a fierce look in her eyes, because today is gonna be the day she invites him to lunch. When it's almost noon, Kanawa tells Kamegawa he can fix his proposal after lunch, but when she's ready to invite him, he was already long gone. He comes back with a cup ramen and Kanawa scolds him for not minding his health, and he explains that he's on a budget, which makes her worry about him even more. While she's having lunch and worrying about her work relationship with Kamegawa, Kanawa remembers when she used to have lunch with her own senpai, who was always telling her that she was doing the best she could. Being straightforward was her strong suit, and everyone will realize that eventually. Afterwards, she receives a call from one of her colleagues, who asks if there's something on her mind, since she seemed worried during the call. She tells him about Kamegawa and he says she should communicate with him more, since okay and yeah are not proper conversations. He also suggests she should read some self-improvement books regarding work as a manager and mentor, but Kanawa says that there is no need for that, since other people's success stories won't necessarily be helpful in her case. However, as Kanawa is leaving work, she goes to a bookstore and buys a shit ton of self-improvement books. I guess she was just trying to impress her co-worker after all. And despite scolding Kanegawa for eating cup ramen and not taking care of his health, she had to do the same, since she forgot to buy dinner on her way home. At least she has some veggies to go with it. She starts with a book on communication in the workplace, and quickly realizes that her behavior earlier was not okay at all. She picks up a mirror and practices her smile, but she's clearly not good at it. She learns that formal and strict communication with coworkers is not necessary anymore, and she should talk to them in a friendly and easygoing way. But she is not sure that her communication skills are good enough for that. And she's not even able to invite them out for lunch or drinks, so she's clueless on what to do. And, to make things worse, her noodles were overdone and she broke her chopsticks. Kanawa was so focused on learning how to be a good mentor that she ended up sleeping on her desk and woke up late for work. So she had to hurry to get ready to leave. Even though she did everything in a flash, she was still looking as hot as ever when she got to work. She tries to greet Kanegawa in a friendlier way, but at the same time, she hears other co-workers bad-mouthing her, saying she is scary and always looking angry, and she was more strict than necessary, only getting away with it because she is good at her job. She drops her stuff and Kanegawa sees her notes on communicating better with him. When he hands her things, she was looking as red as a tomato. Then Kanegawa decides to stand up for her. He goes to the other co-workers and says he's glad that Kanawa was his senpai, because he got to know her kind side. However, even after Kamegawa stood up for her, she still wasn't able to thank him properly and invite him for lunch. Kanawa is having a presentation regarding a collaboration between a game and a maid cafe. The game, called Racing Girls, is having a maid costume event. Thus, they want to produce special costumes for the maids and decorate the cafe like the game's world map. While his senpai presents, Kamegawa looks intensely at her. After the presentation, the clients are eager to work with Kanawa again because their last collaboration with the cafe was a huge success. Kanawa tells Kamegawa that she wants him to be a part of the project as well, and asks him to study and brush up the proposal using her past plans as a reference to fill in the details. She says he can come to her if he has any questions, because an important part of being a mentor is to create an environment where the senpai can feel comfortable lending an ear. And to do that, she needs to open up to Kamegawa more. So this will definitely be the day where she invites him to lunch. And again, she is denied entry to the building because she has the wrong card. Kamegawa is playing Racing Girls so he can get familiar with it. Kanawa actually plays all the games that they are working with, because even though the clients hand them the material, she prefers experiencing them firsthand. And she is also really into games. Kamegawa is having some trouble with the game, so Kanawa takes over to demonstrate how it's done. She is happy that her gaming skills will be useful at work. Not only she's a hardcore lonely gamer, she also worked as a beta tester during college, and even now she prefers to stay at home playing instead of hanging out with others. But she also had problems playing the game on the smartphone, because she usually plays with a controller, and she was moving so much that she falls from the couch, and Kamegawa suggests they practice together in the versus mode, but they ended up just playing in a beginner-friendly track. It was almost time for lunch, and Kanawa was determined to invite Kamegawa, but she changes her mind when she sees him focused on his work and thinks that maybe the timing wasn't right. She goes to help another coworker and then her boss calls her. He wants her to take care of another project, but she doesn't listen to anything he says because she overhears her coworkers inviting Kamegawa to lunch and thinks that she lost her chance. Kamegawa says that he brought his own lunch, which means he wouldn't accept her invitation anyway. She thinks of inviting him to tomorrow's lunch in advance, but this might put unnecessary pressure on him. Kamegawa brought instant noodles again, and Kanawa looks at him with a fire on her eyes. He says he's still on a budget and saving for next month, so she decides to treat him to lunch. She yells at him for not taking care of his health. If he shows up late because he's sick, it would be her responsibility as his senpai, so she tells him to shut up and follow her. When they sit down at the restaurant, Kanawa is happy to have finally managed to invite him, and she wants to do just as her own senpai used to. She would tell her that it was up to the kouhai to hand out napkins and pick up ice, but she would always end up doing it anyway, so Kanawa decides she would do exactly like her senior. But while she was lost in thought, Kanegawa had already done everything for her. When it's time to order, Kanawa gets mad at Kamegawa because he only ordered a salad. He said he would feel bad ordering something expensive, but she says he needs to eat meat, so she fills his plate. She gets flustered when he says it's delicious and asks why he's in such a tight budget. He explains that he likes putting together model kits and he recently purchased an expensive one, so now he has to cut back on his food budget. He thinks he's a failure as a working adult, but Kanawa says it's not wrong to indulge in the things you like as long as it doesn't affect your health, which makes her think she should hold off on pulling all-nighters on new game release days. When Kanawa is at home, she plays more racing games on her phone so she can get used to the mobile controllers. She wants to collect more gems so she can unlock new scenarios, but her stomach growls and she goes to get something to eat. She realizes that she only has eggs, so she ends up eating instant noodles again, even though she's always yelling at Kamigawa for doing exactly that. She stayed up late playing the game again, but at least now she's prepared to answer every question that Kamigawa throws at her. She also had a lot to learn when she first started out at the company, but she always had her senpai's help when she needed it. So she wants to be that person to Kamigawa. She tells him he can ask her any question he wants, because the worst he can do is leave doubts unanswered. But she still has that bossy and angry attitude that makes it harder for people to approach her. And Kamigawa says he will be okay. She is bothered by the fact that he doesn't ask her anything, so she gets anxious and starts walking around and staring at him. She takes a break and thinks that she might have created an atmosphere that makes it hard for Kamigawa to ask questions. So she decides to invite him to lunch again so she can open up to him more. But when she's going back to the office, she overhears the others inviting Kamigawa. He wants to invite her as well, but the others say she never goes with them, not even to get drinks or to the New Year party. She always prefers eating and doing things alone. She goes outside to eat and gets in her head again, thinking that Kamigawa has nothing else to learn from her, and even that the things she taught him must have been useless. And she's disappointed at herself because she couldn't show him her good side. She gets a call from the Racing Girls clients and Kamigawa observes her from afar while she talks to them. When Kanawa is leaving work, she realizes that Kamigawa is going to stay late. She asks him if he really is okay doing that alone, and he tells her not to worry. He just wants to polish up the proposal a little. When Kanawa is about to leave, she thinks that even though Kamigawa said he would be okay and she probably doesn't have anything else to teach him, she can go home and leave a newbie working alone over time. So she goes back inside. But for some reason she didn't want him to see her coming back, which quickly fails when she's not able to hide from him at the office. When it's almost midnight, Kanawa tells him they should go because the last trains will leave soon, but he's still not finished. He says that her proposals really moved him because they were easy to read, and he noticed that she really wanted to convey what makes the games fun. Even though she's always busy, she tries to look out for the others. So he decided he didn't want to present something half-hearted to her, which is why he was so dedicated to his proposal. Kanawa was about to cry when Kamigawa notices and hands her a tissue. She says that he was managing everything even better than herself when she started, and he thanks her for everything. Even though she would rather have lunch alone, she went out of her way to invite him. Kanawa says that she wanted to invite him and immediately turns red because she said that impulsively. They end up staying a bit more and Kanawa has to call a cab. But Kamigawa was sleeping at his desk and he wakes up all confused because he's covered on her coat and scarf.